Hey, I'm Surfline forecaster Kevin Wallis. I'm here with fellow forecaster Korte. This is Forerunners, a show about what's happening in the ocean right now. It is our pilot episode. We hope you love it. Also ask for your patience as we get our footing. So let us know in the comments what you'd like, what you don't like potentially, and we'll see what we can do for future episodes. We've got a lot to cover this week, as we always do. We've got highlights from the top spots over the past week. We've got a Swell Story video coming out of Australia that we'll get a preview of, the Olympic Outlook in Tahiti for Teahupo'o, and then we'll finish up with the purple blob of the week. So with that, let's get to our top spots via the Surfline cam rewinds. Kurt, I'm gonna take it right here. We're gonna go with number 5, and that's on the south shore of Oahu. Had a really good size south-southwest swell this last weekend. Actually, the same swell that hit Tahiti a few days prior. We'll get to that actually in just a couple minutes. And all of South Shore was lit up. Great conditions. We had the normal east-northeast trade winds. Bulls, threes into Waikiki. Just beautiful conditions, and really have had a pretty active summer with a couple of breaks in between swells here and there, but kind of been pumping since around May or so.
It definitely looks pretty fun to this East Coaster, I can tell you that. So as we wrap up the South Shore here, we'll take a look at spot number 4 here for our cam rewind. We're going south of the equator here to Sydney, Australia, and the same pattern that really set up that swell for Hawaii that we just saw. Set up some really great waves, some pumping easterly swell for parts of the Sydney area. This was a kind of an unusual pattern that set up. Not really something that we would expect in the middle of July, but again, you can see the results of it here. The setups there just turning on and just going off here, in that area over the past weekend. So great surf for the East Coast there, and I think we may actually see another spot in that general area here with spot number 3, Kevin.
Yeah, we're gonna hang on the east coast of Australia for spot number 3 as we move to the Gold Coast in just a second. Kurt, you mentioned that the pattern that set up that obviously the same swell that hit the Gold Coast and the Sydney zone. It's atypical, something you see more often in this kind of later summer and into the fall months as we get to number 3 here, moving up towards the north on the Gold Coast. So that was, and hey, the first thing, as soon as I see this picture, my West Coast bias wants to say this is a sunset, but you keep me honest, Kurt. This is actually a sunrise, being on the East Coast and beautiful conditions.
North
here.
to the south to the right.
I know. Yeah. I got to think about it, otherwise I get a little confused. But yeah, just a beautiful swell, kind of mid-period east to east-northeast swell. Had really strong area high pressure that set up in the Tasman Sea and eventually moved over New Zealand, combined with a couple other lows actually that set this up. But I heard at least a couple whispers. We're in the Gold Coast now, but just a little south of that, and some of the points in northern New South Wales, I heard some whispers of all-time or best ever type of deal, and certainly did look pretty good.
And as we head to spot number 2 here, Jeffreys Bay, South Africa, standing on the southern hemisphere. The South Atlantic's been on really a bender, and no better place, I think, probably at least in this regular footer's mind than J Bay to take advantage of that. Early in the week we saw some big surf, but it was pretty windy and offshore, and then it got a little bit smaller with a lighter wind, but then it really fired on Thursday. Some of the best supers that they've had all year. And just as you can see here, just roping in offshore winds and just that wall just lining up ahead of you. Just what a special place. It's amazing.
It's funny. We're showing. I think we're just showing 2 waves here, but it takes like 3 minutes to show 2 waves at J Bay. As we move down to number 1 in Tahiti at Teahupo'o. This was the end of last week. This was from Thursday, I believe, which was the big day. Had a couple solid southwest swells in a row. And Thursday was that day, the biggest day, where it's kind of like that high-end paddle size, low-end toe size, with a mixture of both. It was kind of dark and stormy at times. This looks pretty good as the southeasterly trades kicked up through the afternoon, which is like a side offshore wind there. A lot of times you'll see more clouds move in. You can see some squalls come through too. But overall, some really good waves at the end of the road, mid to late last week, and that's the same swell that hit Hawaii actually too, as we moved through this past weekend and still into Monday. So pumping surf. Southwest Pacific has been on a bender, so it's really been cool to see. And just So there was something in common with the Tahiti and the Hawaii swell. That happens all the time. We see those southerly swells that hit Tahiti. Roughly 3 days later will hit Hawaii. And in this case, this swell actually, all of these spots, including Australia, had something in common. Mark, we're going to bring up our chart right here. And the thing that they had in common was really strong area of high pressure. Like I mentioned before, that started off in the Tasman Sea and then moved over to New Zealand. You can actually see it on the wave height chart here, those lighter colors indicating smaller surf heights. You get under the middle of that area of high pressure, really fair weather and beautiful conditions with kind of storminess on all sides around it. So these weren't the exact same swells, obviously. They weren't even same swells at all that hit Australia, Tahiti, and Hawaii, but they had that common denominator, which is really pretty cool.
Yeah, so if you think about it in the southern hemisphere, high pressure winds around that, blowing counterclockwise. So there on the southeastern side of that, you have those purples. That's those strong southwesterly winds that are sending swell up to Tahiti, eventually Hawaii, and even to the west coast of the Americas. And then kind of on that northwest side, you can get the east or northeast winds that can set up waves through the Tasman there. Great setup, lots of waves all around. And I want to say that was that high before it slid over to New Zealand set the record for the highest barometric pressure that Australia has ever seen. So definitely a unique scenario, and man, a lot of waves all around, benefiting from that.
Yeah, I believe it was in Tasmania that it set the record. I don't know if it was for the continent in general, but certainly for Tasmania, and it may have been seasonally too. I can't remember the specific details, but it's something that perks our interest all the time. Like you don't necessarily think of high pressure as a great swell maker, but it plays a really important part, whether it's size, whether it's consistency, and depending on where you are in the world, can just set up great swell in and of itself too. So it's an important factor to look at, and an interesting common denominator here for the great surf that hit the east coast of Australia. And this is in fact such a special swell in Australia that we did a Swell Story video. We've got a preview of that right here. If you look to your bottom right, you can see that QR code. You can get the full video. I think it's 4 or 5 minutes long or so. Get a breakdown from our forecaster in Sydney, Hugh McDowell, and just incredible footage from this past weekend all the way into Monday from all the spots that fired from the Gold Coast down through New South Wales.
You should take a look at our wave height animation there. You can see kind of a little bit closer zoomed in view. Here's our wind animation again, showing those winds setting up that run of swell. And I love this wave. Just the kind of roll in, set up. Like eye in the section, backdooring it. It's just when I was watching it, I was like, oh, I love waves like that. So and then you come out and you pump to the next section.
Easy in, easy out. Yeah.
Yeah, for real. So and then they started pumping pretty quick here, and I was like, okay, well, yeah, I would have doggy doored it.
The board almost did actually. The board was trying to doggy door it.
That, and then look at the offshore winds and the color of it. It's just so picturesque, and it's great. Just like the pacing of that wave, look at that. Just I don't know. I love watching stuff like that. It's so flat here at home right now and cold that it's like, man, I just love. It gets me stoked. There's not waves here right now, but there's not really waves coming anytime soon. But just seeing these, it's like, oh my gosh, how do you not get excited to go surf?
This is, wow. I think this is the aforementioned spot here that I heard was all time and/or is pretty much as good as it's ever been.
We got a barbecue place down the street called Pigman's.
How is it? Is it good? Does it get you stoked to go out and get barbecue?
Yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite barbecue spot here, but they do a good job getting saucy back. Yeah,
we're everywhere.
That's awesome. Pumped. Yeah, we're everywhere pumped. Check it out. Click the QR code.
Yeah, it's well worth it. All right, well, switching gears for our next topic here. We've got a special guest question for our Ask a Forecaster feature, which we are going to try and do every couple of weeks when we run Forerunners. So, Mark, if you don't mind.
Surfline crew, Brett Simpson here. Just checking in to see why this water got so cold. Got any answers? I might have to throw the full suit back on.
Looks pretty comfortable to me, Kevin. But yeah, what's up with the water temps?
I mean, Brett has got some we got some serious backyard game going on there too. Well, yeah. So we here in North Orange County specifically, Brett Sippo's in Huntington Beach is where I'm located as well. Or I'm in Newport Costa Mesa area, but surf a lot of the same spots, and we've seen the water drop a fair bit. You know, just this past weekend, we were around 70 degrees, 71 degrees, and by Tuesday that had dropped significantly, anywhere from 6 to 10 degrees, depending on where you were looking. And the short answer is it's upwelling. You know, we get enhanced west-northwest, anywhere from west to west-northwest, northwest winds in the afternoons. And what that does is that kind of blows parallel to the coast. It pushes that warmer surface water roughly out to the side, you know, out towards the sea, and it brings up cooler water from the depths, and so a lot of times you will see that those temps drop significantly, anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees over a matter of, you know, sometimes hours, but usually a day or two. We see it most typically, or it's most noticeable, I should say, in the spring and summer months, because those are the months where it's like, hey, one day it's like literally you're trunking it if it's 70 degrees, and then a day or two later, if it's down to 62 or 60, and even in some cases it dipped to briefly to around 58 or 59 degrees. It's like, man, it's not only a 3-2, but if you're kind of a wuss like me, maybe talking 4-3 again. So that's what it is, you know, and I know you guys obviously get the same thing on the East Coast, just a little bit different wind direction that you're looking at to warm and cool the water.
Yeah, I feel so sorry for your 8 and 10 degree water temperature changes. It just makes me really, really cry for your pain. Yeah, here on the East Coast, you know, the main upwelling areas are the northern Outer Banks and New Jersey. New Jersey's just being slaughtered this year with cold water. The pattern that we're in has promoted a lot of south to southwest winds, which over here means upwelling. You know, the water moves 90 degrees from that wind direction. You get upwelling with water from the underneath, and our source water is somewhere in the mid 50s or so, mid to upper 50s. So it happens where sometimes we can be in the upper 70s, close to 80 here on the northern Outer Banks, and then get a day of strong south to southwest winds and drop 20 degrees pretty easily over the course of a day. And that will shock your system pretty quickly if you run out there and try to hop in. So obviously it's not just Southern California. It's not just the northern half of the East Coast. This happens everywhere. And it's a pretty cool phenomenon. And there's a lot of really great literature on it if you want to go and get nerdy about it, because this actually has a big role in like fisheries and the amount of nutrients that are available for wildlife and stuff like that. So it's super cool, really well studied, but maybe not specifically to surfers, but a cool area that we've researched a good amount here at Surfline, just because there's nothing that ruins a session quicker than you run into the beach and figuring out that, man, you should have had your 4-3. And all you got is a pair of trunks. So really cool, great question. And yeah, that's I obviously am very passionate about it.
Yeah, and I'll quickly mention too, the opposite can occur when you have an opposite direction wind. So for us on the U.S. West Coast, when we get southerly winds for a number of days in a row, we get a downwelling effect. So you actually get you would see warmer water develop, and for you it would be the opposite, where you get more northerly wind and you see the warm water return or develop. So yeah, thanks for the question, Simpo. Good to see you. Good to see you lounging in the backyard. All right, and moving on from cold water to warm water, let's take a look at Tahiti. This isn't just a normal outlook either, but an outlook for the Olympics. Kurt and I are both going to be on site in just under a week to provide forecast information to help the various stakeholders make decisions on when to run. The Olympic window opens on July 27th and it will close on August 5th. We need 4 days to get through the event. Kurt, you were on site in Japan in 2021 to provide forecast guidance. You nailed the forecast per usual with a really tricky scenario there with a tropical storm just offshore. I know it's a super stressful gig, but also incredibly unique and rewarding. What are the things that really stood out to you in Japan, and what are you looking forward to in Tahiti?
So in Japan, obviously, we were still a lot of COVID restrictions, so it was very isolating. I felt like I was over there on site. And
is that why you had me come this year? Is because you just were lonely in Japan?
It's one of the many reasons that, and you're a very good forecaster, which comes in handy. You know, no, but and I guess the reason I brought that up was exactly that. Is like a lot of times when we have these challenging forecasts, because we have a team of forecasters at Surfline, like it's not just me making a call on a lot of this stuff. I'll ping Kevin or Shaw or Mike or John or Rob or really any of the forecasters that we have around the world and say, hey, like, what does this look like to you? What are you thinking when you see this and that? The ability to bounce those ideas back and forth off everybody is just so productive when you're trying to make a very challenging and high profile forecast. So yeah, the stress of being in my my hotel room and looking out over the wave and saying, oh man, how big is it going to be tomorrow? Was pretty stressful, but yeah, we did a good job getting it done and some big and challenging surf, much bigger than probably most people thought Japan was going to be for the Olympic window. So definitely a success there. And as we look forward here to this one, yeah, I mean, like we're both going to be on site, and we've been watching it for several months now. So it's really interesting to see how things have evolved here as we've gotten a little bit closer to the Olympic window. And yeah, I mean, so what do you? Yeah, I guess I should ask you, what are you seeing? What do we think? What are the main things we're going to be watching here as we get into the window here in 9 days?
Yeah. So, I think what we're seeing on here, and we've looped through this animation a couple times. This is what we're watching for the very beginning of the window. So on next Saturday, which is I believe the 27th. We've got a couple different areas we're watching. We've got a low coming over the top of New Zealand here over the next few days, and then a deeper low down in the Southern Ocean, kind of just south of Tasmania. Neither one look like they'll be a major swell producer, but it looks like the combination of the two should be pretty fun and contestable. Head high-ish is what we've been kind of thinking over the last couple of days. Obviously need to see these storms develop to see how they actually go. The interesting thing about the storm coming over the top of New Zealand is it's going to potentially create a very westerly swell. I think we're up around 235, 240 degrees. Your typical swell for Teahupo'o is more 210-ish, something like that. So, with that really westerly angle, a couple things may come into play. Maybe some wider west bowls, but we may see some rights too that could really come into play that first day of the event. So, yeah, we're not expecting a big swell or big surf from this combination of swells, but it does look like it'll be contestable and pretty clean. And then, as we've been talking about, it seems like almost hourly, a lot of interesting things going on in the long range. I would say we're low confidence on any specific details, but the trend has been a positive one over the last 2 to 3 days. A few days ago, we were thinking like, "Ooh, boy, this looks like it's going to be a tough one. Could really be pretty small." And things are starting to materialize and look a little bit better and a little bit better. Really cool thing is that lines up very well with the wave climatology for our Teahupo'o. Like as we've looked for years really, like you can see a pretty distinct trend up in average surf size roughly the last 1 to 2 days of July and then the first 1 to 2 days of August, and it looks like the climatology may hold in this case, which is really pretty cool. What do you see? Give us a breakdown on kind of how unique this pattern is, or how atypical this pattern is that we're going to be watching, and it's going to give us plenty of gray hair.
Tell me about it. Yeah, I mean, so typically what you would want, right, if you were going to draw this up and say, man, what do we need to get great waves, is you would want high pressure centered, over the Tasman or potentially over New Zealand, and you would want a strong low kind of moving from the Southern Ocean there south of Australia up into the southwestern Pacific. Gradient between those two puts you a nice wide, long fetch of southwest winds. You get that swell right around that swell, the swell direction of around 210 or so, and that sets up like pretty, when you picture the wave, that's basically what you see, and that's kind of what you would ideally want from this. As you mentioned, we have the system that's north of the islands. We have the one that's way far away down in the Southern Ocean. Not really what you would ideally draw up, but an interesting overlapping pattern of those mix of swells that should set up some probably pretty interesting stuff there for the first couple of days of the window, as you said. And then as we look later, the miles are kind of trying to drop this feature down, southeast into the central South Pacific, south of Tahiti. And that's not really a scenario that you would typically say is normal for, producing great surf, but it doesn't mean it doesn't. So, as I've seen this, it's like, whenever you have a contest like this, there's some curveball that's shown to you, and we just got to deal with it and try to hit it. So I'm stoked on the opportunity, and I look forward to working with you on the contest forecast here.
Likewise, my man. Yeah, so trending up, and we'll keep watching it, and stay tuned to Surfline, and we'll give you the details. All right, well, to wrap up this edition of Forerunners, we've got a new feature we want to tell you about. It's premium, but no, excuse me. We are going to move to Purple Blob of the Week. I got a little bit ahead of myself. I'm that excited about Premium Plus that I just got ahead of myself just a little bit. So we're going to have a look at the Purple Blob of the Week. We're going to hang in the South Pacific actually here. The big swell that hit Tahiti late last week, that's the swell that's hitting Southern California right now. We're seeing more activity in the Central South Pacific, or we've seen it actually over the last couple of days. And that's kind of continuing right now. So just more surf lining up for us as we move really through the weekend into next week. We actually have the same swell that's hitting us now. Also hit mainland Mexico. Mark, I think, has got a great clip we're going to pull up here in just a second from mainland Mex.
You know how I was saying, during the Australia piece, how great those waves look and how fun. This looks scary to me.
Yeah. So. Just whip one around, a little step up.
Yeah, I'm a beach break guy, I admit it, but this kind of rolling is a little different than the other one to me.
He's going the right direction for you, right?
Oh, that's true. I'd be there like messing with the umbrella on the beach, like, I can't get it upright. Oh man,
I don't know. A little shade before I can go out and surf here.
It's not quite good yet. Yeah. Look at that thing. That's a bomb. Jeez.
Beautiful condition. Charlotte Perry did a fantastic job on the forecast for this specific spot. We had a couple guys head down to score some waves, and Charlotte, per usual, really nailed this forecast. And saw just insane waves over the last couple of days. And again, this is
that's me and the green board there. Just about to take one.
Just on the inside. Yeah. This was the biggest of the swells. This was a swell that hit, Tahiti on Thursday, South Shore a couple days later, us kind of right now. But we've got these following up now too. They're a little bit better aimed like towards the south end of South America. But this just keeps us, and by us I mean U.S. West Coast, the Americas in general, keeps us in fun to medium-sized waves, depending on where you're looking. Really all the way through the weekend for a good chunk of next week too. Nothing major, smaller than what we're seeing now, but just a really nice run of swell from all this activity in the Central South Pacific. All right, I jumped the gun earlier. I was excited about Premium Plus. We're actually getting to there now to wrap up this edition of Forerunners. We do want to tell you about Premium Plus. It launched just about 10 days ago, something we're really proud of. A lot of people put a ton of hours to develop some of these products. So hit that QR code for a free trial. As always, we really appreciate your support of Surfline. And it's some really cool things. Kurt, what are some of your favorite things about the new Premium Plus offering?
The wave timeline. Hands down. You can sit there and you can look and immediately shows you the biggest waves, the waves that were ridden. You can go back in the rewind and see them. It's not like sitting there and kind of waiting for waves, just or fast forwarding it and trying to find waves. Does it for you. You can go back and immediately see it. You want to pick out how many sets are happening, how frequently they're happening. It's amazing. It's everything that when we started the rewind experience now, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it was. That's kind of like what you had in your mind that we wanted to do, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome just using that to make my own decisions on when and where to surf, but then also helping me forecast and observe the surf and understand, how frequent those bigger sets are, how many people are catching waves, where they're catching the waves, like all those kinds of things. It's awesome.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. My favorite new feature too. So yeah, please check it out. Check out that free trial. Again, we'd love your support. Great to hang with you, Kurt. Look forward to seeing you in person in just a few days here. And for our audience, we'd love to hear from you too about Forerunners. Let us know what you think of the show. Please drop comments down below here. Even ask a forecaster question. We may pick one out here for one of our next episodes. So until next time, please enjoy this time capsule of Surfline and where we're going with Premium Plus.
This is Sean Collins, Chief Forecaster of Surfline.
Who could forget dialing 976 Surf?